What's up everybody, Matt Maran here for another weekly update. So there's tons of news to go over here, and a lot of it is very enthusiast oriented, so which is great. So anyway, first, Dodge has shown a concept version of the Charger Widebody, and they say this is a concept they brought to Springfest 14, which is a huge Dodge enthusiast event. And so the head of Dodge and SRT Design posted some pictures of it on his Instagram, and it looks really good with the widebody treatment, and it does look basically production ready to me. The front bumper is very nice and finished. It even has the little part that extends up into the grille there, very similar to the Durango SRT, and I think it actually looks very nice there on the Charger. Yeah, so anyway, the wide body look suits the Charger perfectly, and it's mechanically, it always has historically shared stuff with the Challenger, and everyone was wondering when a Charger wide body was coming, and now it seems like the answer seems to be fairly soon. Now this isn't confirmed, it's just a concept, but Dodge is pretty straightforward with stuff. I feel like they're not playing games here and just going to tease us with something we can't have. So I'm sure that we'll probably get something like this, relatively soon. Again, we'll have to wait and see just how soon. But formally, Dodge has said they're using the concept to gauge feedback from enthusiasts. Like, anyone's going to be mad about a wide body Charger. Everyone's excited about it. Just go for it. And so anyway, as far as, what versions of wide body Charger would come, Allpar and Mopar Insider are both reporting that's most likely going to be an RT Scat Pack and Hellcat version, exactly like how you have with the Challenger wide body. Now, they didn't mention Red Eye. That probably, if it does come, would come later on down the road. Don't want to probably roll them all out at the same time. So probably just, Scat Pack and Hellcat at first, then maybe a Red Eye for a final send-off before this generation of the Charger and Challenger die off here in a couple of years. We'll have to wait and see. But anyway, very awesome to see that. And some other awesome Mopar news. The Ram 1500 T-Rex was spied again, but this time again, it looks a little more production ready and still sounds, according to the spy photographer, like it's running a Hellcat motor, which is very great to hear, with lots of supercharger wine under acceleration. This one looks a little closer to being finished because it has a higher ride height than before, and it's a little more polished with a wider track with those fender flares, and what looks like remote reservoir shocks hiding behind those covers, according to the spy photographer. That's what he kind of saw there. And so this looks like it's going to be the Raptor fighter that everyone was wanting Dodge to make, and I'll get to a rumor here about the Raptor in a second, but this Ram could really be poised to be the new king of the awesome truck segment here, and so hopefully that comes relatively soon as well. In some other awesome truck news though, Car and Driver is reporting that according to multiple sources they have, Ford is planning to put the Shelby GT500 motor in the F-150 Raptor to compete with that Ram T-Rex. They see these spy shots too, and so maybe this is going to be their answer to that, and trying to get an answer out pretty quickly as well. So this Super Raptor, or whatever they end up calling it, they're saying, according to Car Driver, could come in 2 years or less, and this would be before the next gen F-150 is supposed to arrive around 2022. So that's where this is going to be, and so hopefully it's not just a limited final send-off thing, and it'll be something that'll be available for at least a full model year, if not two. But they're also speculating, of course, that it would not be cheap. We don't even have pricing for the GT500 yet. But, you have all the, larger F-150 size and stuff. Most likely this vehicle is going to be at least 70 grand for this, GT500 motor in a Raptor. But it'd be awesome if they offered that. So who cares about the price? People that buy these aren't worried about that anyway. And so awesome to see that. And some other Raptor news, very interestingly and unexpectedly, a Ranger Raptor was spied testing around Ford headquarters this week here. And this gives new hope that it could actually come to the United States, even though Ford has said in the past flat out that it's not coming. We're not getting it. They just originally said they wanted to have a Raptor for every market in the world, and the F-150 obviously isn't sold in a lot of foreign markets, and so this was their answer for everyone else in the world with the Ranger Raptor. But this one that we're seeing here, not only is it left-hand drive, but it has dual exhausts instead of the foreign vehicle's single exit exhaust. And the spy photographer said it definitely wasn't running a diesel engine. He said it did not sound like a diesel whatsoever. So there's a few different ideas as far as what engines this could be running. It could be running the same engine as the regular Wrangler. That's totally an option. And that's what the Chevy Colorado does with its ZR2 version. You just get the top trim V6. And that's it. And it's just like another trim level. It doesn't really give you any power or anything. So it could just be all the great off-road goodies with a standard engine, or they could have tweaked that engine because it's the 2.3 liter EcoBoost, that's also found in the Mustang and Focus RS. And, with both of those, they make 350 pound-feet of torque, which would be a nice jump over what you get here in the Ranger. And, it could also do over 300 horsepower, which would be a nice improvement for the Ranger as well, which I think only does like 270 currently. There's also a possibility it could be they could get the 2.7 liter EcoBoost V6 thrown in there, and that could really put it at the top of the pack as far as power goes. We'll have to wait and see, even if this shows up or what's going on with this. But anyway, cool to see that spied. Another way that Ford is planning to go head-to-head here with FCA is with the new Ford Bronco. And there's a new report here about that from Automotive News this week here, saying that the top Ford dealers went to an event in Florida last month, and they were shown the new Bronco. And so they said the dealers, supposedly, they all spoke anonymously and, weren't identified. But they said they saw a two-door version of the Bronco and also a four-door version that would be available, they were told. And they said to be even more similar to the Wrangler, though, they said it's going to have a retro design with round headlights and a rectangular grille with Bronco across the front. I'm really thinking they're just going back to that Bronco concept that was seen in, I think, that rock movie Rampage or something, and it was an actual concept vehicle from, I think, like at least 10 years ago. It's sounding like that's kind of what they're doing here and realizing they had it right with that concept. But in addition to all that stuff, they're saying it's going to have a removable hardtop and removable doors as well. So really taking a page out of the Wrangler's book here. Another interesting detail, though, that they mentioned is that the mirrors are mounted on the A-pillar, though, on the Bronco, so that you can still have your side mirrors even if you take the doors off, which is something with the Wrangler. The mirrors are attached to the door, so you take off the door, you lose your mirrors as well. Now, how much do you need mirrors when you don't have doors? You just look over your shoulder, not a huge deal, but, that is kind of an interesting little twist there. And, anyway, it's going to be arriving, supposedly according to them, mid to late 2020. And also at this meeting, they saw the baby Bronco, whatever that's going to be called. But they said that that's also coming in 2020. And they said that is supposedly going to be coming first. And then the real Bronco is going to be coming after that. So that's kind of interesting. I would have assumed they would have flipped it and done it the other way around. But they said that's coming first, but that's also coming in 2020. So that means there's going to have to be a rollout. That's why I'm saying mid to late 2020 for the Bronco, because they're saying the full-on Bronco could come as soon as 3 months after the baby version, but that still puts us at second quarter of 2020. So we'll have to see. But anyway, they're going to be totally separate vehicles. It's, the baby Bronco is going to be like a car-based platform and just a little crossover. Think Jeep Renegade versus actual Bronco being like a Wrangler. So that's kind of where they're going to have the differentiation, I think. But anyway, exciting to hear those little details. Mercedes has revealed the 2020 Mercedes-AMG A35 Sedan, which is going to be the only version we'll get here in the States. Europe is also getting the hatch version, of course. But our hatch version that we will be getting is going to be lifted an inch most likely and called the GLA 45 like it has in the past, whenever that's officially revealed, which probably sometime later this year, I'm guessing. Anyway, though, back to this A35 sedan. It has the same mechanicals as the already announced hatch version, with a 2-liter 4-cylinder with a twin-scroll turbo for 302 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque. 0 to 60 is in 4.7 seconds. The transmission is that 7-speed dual clutch with power going to an all-wheel drive system that can go either between full-on front-wheel drive or a 50-50 split front and rear. It gets AMG-specific suspension tuning, lighter aluminum front control arms, and extra chassis bracing. It also gets bigger brakes with drilled and slotted 13.8-inch rotors up front with 4-piston calipers and 13-inch rotors in the rear with 1-piston calipers there. Inside, it gets sportier seats, and there's an optional steering wheel right out of the higher-end AMGs with a built-in mode selector thing there, which is pretty cool. There's also a telemetry system system that can record lap times, vehicle parameters like G-forces, and even display track maps and driving lines on either the infotainment screen or on the optional heads-up display, which is very cool and kind of gives you an augmented reality type driving line thing like in a video game, which is very cool. And so there's no price or on sale date provided yet for these, but most likely it's going to be showing up by the end of this year. Ferrari has revealed what they say is their most extreme one-off design ever, and that's the P80C, they call it. And so they've been working on this one since 2015 with the lucky customer that's commissioned it. And anyway, unlike other one-off cars for customers, this one is strictly a track car. It's based on the 48 GT3 actually, and that's the race car version. And although they say radical changes have been made, so it's not even just a GT3 race car, it's still much different. So a few of the things I said, for example, its wheelbase is almost 2 inches longer than a 488 with a more cab forward design. It has the much more aggressive bodywork and aero that you see, which provides 5% better aero than that 48 GT3 race car. Another interesting change is the roof ends before the engine, unlike most other mid-engine Ferraris these days. And so it, I'm guessing, allows better cooling and just gives it a very interesting, different design for a Ferrari. Speaking of the engine, Ferrari didn't give us any mechanical details at all on this vehicle, so not sure what's powering it, but my guess is probably a version of the 48 GT3's motor. But anyway, cool to see that, and they didn't give any kind of pricing either, but of course, it's just a deal between Ferrari and whoever this person is, so interesting to see that. Porsche has revealed the 2020 Cayenne Coupe, which is mostly the same as a regular Cayenne, but with less practicality, just like all these silly SUV coupes. So I guess, it's for those who want the truck capabilities and higher ride height that the Panamera doesn't provide, because if you want a four-door practical Porsche, you can get a Panamera, or just if you want practicality of an SUV, you go for the Cayenne or the Macan. So I don't get, where this makes sense, but people buy these for some reason, and so that's why they build them. The rear doors and quarter panels are redesigned here on the coupe version to make them flow better with a fastback look here, and the bodywork is slightly wider than a regular Cayenne in the rear, so a little bit of a more dramatic change than what you see on some of these other conversions. Mechanically, it's the same as a regular Cayenne, with the regular model doing 335 horsepower from a 3-liter turbo V6. Does 5.7 seconds 0 to 60. And then there's the turbo model with its 4-liter twin turbo V8 for 541 horsepower, 567 pound-feet of torque, as well as a 3.7 seconds 0 to 60 time. A couple different things here on the coupe are that the Sport Chrono package is standard, as is the active suspension management system and the 20-inch wheels. It also gets the adaptive rear spoiler there from the Cayenne Turbo, as standard on all Cayenne coupes, even base models apparently. There's also a standard panoramic glass roof, but, and this is really where I think they jumped the shark with the Cayenne Coupe, the coupe does get an exclusive carbon fiber roof option if you want on this big, heavy, high off the ground SUV. If you want a low center of gravity, guess what? Get out of an SUV, get into a Panamera, or even the Panamera Sport Turismo if you want the extra hatch space. Why? It's just so counterintuitive. There's no point in putting a carbon fiber roof on an SUV. Just that part really rubbed me the wrong way. Anyway, there's also, even more silly, is this carbon fiber roof is part of 3 different lightweight option packages you can get here for the Cayenne Coupe, and it's almost certainly going to be as heavy as a regular Cayenne, even with those lightweight packages. It just, the whole thing boggles my mind. Inside, though, it gets some unique seats here with more bolstering, which is cool. The back seat is actually a little bit lower as well here by 1.18 inches, so that the headroom isn't compromised as much. Cargo room is about 5 cubic feet less than a regular Cayenne at 22 cubic feet, but still 4.6 more than a Panamera. Now, they didn't give any dimensions for the Panamera Sport Turismo, so maybe that makes up the difference. So it is kind of a middle ground, but still just, okay, it's an SUV coupe, whatever, but don't try and make it lightweight. That's a lost cause. Another thing is the coupe is nearly $10,000 more than a regular Cayenne. So in addition to having less practicality, you got to pay to have less space. So it's kind of like the Porsche formula. The more parts they take off and the lighter your Porsche gets, the more expensive it gets. Anyway, so these coupes are going to be starting at $76,550 for that base model. The turbo model's balloon nearly double the price at $131,350 for the turbo model, supposedly. And these are going to be in dealerships this fall. And yeah, I would rather have a Panamera wagon if I'm going to go for something like that. But anyway, interesting to see that one. In other sportier SUV news, a little more down to earth here, Hyundai has revealed the Tucson N-Line in Europe. So we'll most likely be getting this also in the States eventually, because like the i30 N-Line was originally revealed over there, and then we also got the Elantra GT, that's our version of the i30 here, with the N-Line treatment last year, or early this year here. And so I'm sure going to be getting this one as well. But the full-on N is coming eventually, but in the meantime, this N-Line gets similar enhancements to the previous N-Lines with refined power steering, they say, a sportier suspension setup with dampers that are 8% stiffer in the front, 5% stiffer in the back. It uses the same engines as the regular Tucson. There's also the sportier styling for the bumpers and grille. There's darker headlamps and various black accents, around the vehicle there. Out back, there's a sportier exhaust tips and rear spoiler, as well as 19-inch wheels to kind of round out the look. The interior also gets sportier N-line seats with better bolstering there, sportier steering wheel and shifter, as well as red stitching. And so nice improvements though, for someone with a little bit of a sportier look and doesn't want to wait for the full-on N version. But anyway, this is gonna be coming to Europe in May, so cool to see that. In other Hyundai news, they're one of many companies this week that are teasing their New York debuts that are gonna be coming up here in a few weeks. So Hyundai has shown the badge for their tiny crossover they're calling the Venue. I don't understand why the name Venue is good. It's supposed to slot beneath the Kona, whatever this vehicle is, which again, I don't know how you get a crossover smaller than the Kona without making a unicycle, but we'll see. We'll see how that turns out. But Venue, that name, again, not wanting to rant, but that's like, I don't know. It just seems like a most uninteresting name. It's like arena, stadium, bleachers, venue. Like it just, I don't know. They say the name references a place where people want to be seen, or in this case, inside the vehicle. The Venue symbolizes a trendy, unique style, perfect for Hyundai's newest and smallest CUV. Okay, you want it to be sporty and stylish, okay, but to be seen in Hyundai's most affordable, cheapest crossover that's probably gonna be $20,000, like, I don't know. Anyway, just gonna move on from that one. So that's coming at New York. Brief detour from the New York news though. Another thing here from Hyundai Motor Group is the Seoul Motor Show is going on currently, and they're also showing off the Sonata, which I showed off a couple of weeks ago with a few pictures they revealed back then. But Kia has shown the SP Signature concept there, and so Kia says that this hints at the company's plans to introduce a new small SUV for its global markets. They already committed to giving us a smaller SUV, basically based on the Kona, and so we'll probably be getting something very similar to what you see here by the end of this year. No surprises there. Anyway, getting back to the New York stuff here, Nissan has teased that they'll be celebrating 50 years of the Z and GTR, hinting at new special editions there in the shadows underneath of the originals that we can see in the image there. So I'm not sure how far they're going to go on these special editions or how many of them they're going to make, if they're even going to be available to purchase, or what's going on here. I think at this point everyone's tired of special editions of the old models, and I'm really, really hoping that the rumors of them working on a Z are actually going to come to fruition with a concept at least at New York. That would be nice for the Z. A concept for a new GTR would be great too, but something actually substantial from Nissan would be great. But we'll have to wait and see what they're going to do, but hopefully that whenever that Z comes, hopefully it's not far off the new one. Other New York stuff here. Lincoln has also revealed that the 2020 Corsair is going to be showing up at New York here for its reveal, and this is going to be based on the all-new Escape, and it's replacing the MKC, which is their smallest SUV. They don't have any details given here, but we just have a shadowy image, but we already saw very clearly what it looks like in spy shots. It looks like a baby aviator, which is a very good thing. It looks pretty great to me, honestly, and so no complaints there, but there's no reason to hide it. The spy photos are all over the internet. Everyone knows what it looks like. Another funny thing is Ford continues on with this. They're teasing what they're going to be showing ahead of the New York Auto Show, and that is the 2020 Escape is going to be revealed on April 2nd, I guess online, ahead of, the New York Auto Show is going to be about 2 weeks later. So they showed a quick teaser video on Twitter showing, what is coming, but we have already clearly seen the Escape with basically no no camo, and so not really any surprises there. But anyway, cool to see that that's finally being revealed here very soon. We also have some new spy shots this week of a fully electric Ford F-150, thanks to spy photographer Brian Williams here. So you can see the battery pack extending down beneath the cab. That's how we know this is a full EV version. And this is also a manufacturer play. This isn't a Rivian vehicle. This is they were testing with F-150s as well. But anyway, looking at the undercarriage there, you can see that this F-150 also has an independent rear suspension for the first time. And they're presuming that they're doing this because it allows for more room for the battery pack. And there's also an exhaust pipe there that's most likely just a dummy unit to throw people off. But there was a plug-in hybrid version of the F-150 Spied running around in the past as well. I don't think that's what this is because, again, the battery pack is just so huge underneath there. And so, yeah, but anyway, cool to see that. In some other Ford EV news, officially they announced this week they're investing $850 million into the Flat Rock plant in Michigan where they build the Mustang and Continental currently. And they're investing the money to add production capacity for next-gen EV vehicles there, as well as for the next-gen Mustang. So Mustang will still be built there. There will be a next-gen version, of course, and then whatever these EVs are. Now, that kind of makes us wonder what's going to happen to the Continental. We'll have to wait and see. You know, it doesn't sell very well, so I wouldn't hold my breath for that to stick around, but hopefully it does because I think it still is a really cool idea. And if they actually put those suicide doors on a production version that was not super limited, I think they would sell very well, actually. But anyway, the plant investments are going to be made through 2023. It'll also add 900 jobs, and Ford has also confirmed that although EVs will be built there, the Mustang-inspired electric performance SUV, that's still going to be built in Mexico. That was the original plan, and that's what they're continuing to do here. So whatever other electric models they're going to build at Flat Rock, I don't know, because it would have been cool to have the Mustang-inspired SUV to give it a little more credibility to actually have it built in the same factory as the real Mustang. That would have been nice. But anyway, that SUV is going to be rolling out summer of 2020 supposedly. But whatever the new EV is, you know, again, it might not come online until around 2023 when those the improvements are done to the factory. And it could be a full EV version of the Mustang potentially, or it could even be Ford a few years ago copyrighted Model E and prevented Tesla from getting that name, and you know, kind of jives with Model T Fords and stuff. So there's rumors that maybe that's going to be what they'll do, and maybe it could be a sedan or something. We'll have to wait and see. GM this week also announced an investment in EV production, investing $300 million for their Orion plant in Michigan, and that money they say is going to be used to build a new compact electric vehicle based on the Bolt platform, which is also built at that Orion plant. So we'll have to wait and see what comes of that. Other electric news: BMW has officially shown 6 pictures here of 3 of their upcoming EVs they're working on: the iX3, the i4, and the iNext, all testing in the Arctic Circle there. And so the iX3 is going to be arriving first, and we'll be using a slightly tweaked version of the current X3's, packaging, with BMW promising 249 miles of range on that one. The i4 is the sedan they plan to start building in 2021, and despite the name, it's going to be basically a mid-size vehicle, I think kind of like a 5 Series size. BMW claims it's going to have at least 372 miles of range, which is in the upper reaches of range we have currently. It's a lot. And they also say a 0 to 62 time will be 4 seconds or so, and then it's going to have 124 mile per hour top speed. So a lot of these electric cars don't have a super high top speed, but should be sufficient. And then the iNext is their larger SUV that'll be more unconventional in its styling and also be their new technological flagship, they're saying. And they're saying that's also going to do 372 miles of range, which is even more impressive considering it's larger, less aerodynamic and stuff. And so they say in addition, it's also going to have level 3 autonomous driving, which is fairly automated but still not fully autonomous. And so that one is scheduled to start production in 2021. And so cool to see that. Aston Martin has shown a few sketches here for the DBS GT Zagato that they plan to make 19 of. And these are part of the package deal with what they're doing, those continuation DB4 GT Zagatos, the old ones. They're building 19 more of those. And so it's a package deal. You buy the 2 cars together. Anyway, they're going to be beginning deliveries at the end of this year for those in the old ones, and then the new DBS Zagatos are going to be arriving about a year later at the end of 2020, and they're going to be based on the DBS Superleggera with a fully custom bodywork you can see there, and some interior tweaks are likely as well. The package deal costs £6 million, which converts to almost $8 million for those 2 vehicles, which will be pretty, but also also very expensive. Autocar has a report out this week talking about the new Jaguar J-Pace that's supposedly in the works. We've been hearing rumors for a long time, but they have some more solid details from their sources here. They claim it's coming in 2021, and they say it's going to be about the size of a Mercedes GLE or Porsche Cayenne, and supposedly their goal at Jaguar is to beat the Porsche Cayenne at its own game. I really hope they don't make a version with a carbon fiber roof and a coupe body style. That would be not great. Anyway, it's rumored to be powered by the new turbo inline six they just rolled out in the new Range Rovers in here at Geneva, but that'll only power the front wheel supposedly, according to their report, which seems like it might not add up for one reason. But anyway, it's going to do that according to their report on the front wheels and have an electric motor out back to power the rear for all-wheel drive. And so the platform this vehicle is going to be on, though, is going to be called MLA. And that underpins currently stuff that's only all-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive. And so it was previously thought that's all that the architecture could do. So either there is a front-wheel drive variant that you can tie in with the all-wheel drive of the electric motor in the back, or maybe this is going to, have a unique platform or something. We'll have to wait and see. We have a few stories this week that aren't great, but I will end on a high note here. So next couple of stories, not super exciting. First off, Mazda has confirmed to Autoblog that the manual transmission will not be offered for the Mazda 6 for the 2019 model year. And so, it was only available on the base model, and especially now with the Signature and Grand Touring trims getting the turbo motor, enthusiasts want the turbo motor. And Mazda didn't make that an option with the manual. And so all the enthusiasts, instead of buying the manual, have now bought the turbo ones. Can't blame them. It's a lovely car. I drove it last year. But because of that, no one's buying manuals, and when they don't buy them, they get killed off, and that's what's happening is they have killed it off. So Mazda USA's marketing and brand communications manager said at the end of their message to Autoblog here, confirming this, that we will continue to listen to our fans, and if their desires should change in the future, we will respond accordingly. I'll tell you what the fans that I've heard, they all want Mazda speed versions, Mazda. So what I propose is put the manual back in with the 2.5-liter turbo motor, and make it a sportier version, call it the Mazda Speed 6, and you would have all your fans being overjoyed. Just a little free tip. But, I know they're going for mainstream stuff, and so I can see why this isn't popular. But hopefully, they did remind everyone we do have the manual in the new Mazda 3, and of course you can get it in the Miata. And the fact they even have the Miata around is still awesome, and so no disrespect there. At least I think Mazda's awesome for still offering that. Anyway, the other thing, so Volvo this past week, so recently they announced, starting in 2021, that all their vehicles are going to be limited to 112 miles per hour. Not a huge deal. How many people are doing over 100 in a Volvo? But now they have expanded their pursuit of safety a little bit more. So they have this new announcement this week talking about this new driver monitoring tech that they're working on to help fight distracted and intoxicated driving. And both of those things are very bad, so totally, appreciate their fight against those things. But it's not ready yet, so they're saying this isn't going to be put in a production car immediately. They said it's going to be early 2020s before we start seeing this stuff in Volvos. But it uses cameras facing the driver, always monitoring you, as well as cameras watching the road, and there's also sensors and computer algorithms to figure out when drivers are either intoxicated or not paying attention, and also, whether it's like because of drowsiness or distractions or what's going on. It can hopefully judge that stuff fairly accurately, and then it'll supposedly also analyze the driver's inputs or lack thereof, and kind of decide what's going on and if there's an issue. And those sensors, those cameras and stuff, will monitor your eye position, how open your eyes are, so it'll tell if you're looking away, if you're looking down at your phone, or if you're falling asleep or whatever. It'll do all that stuff. So the way that it's going to remedy, those issues, if it detects them, is it's going to start by providing warnings, and then if those aren't heeded, it'll limit the car's speed, call Volvo's on-care service, which is like an OnStar type thing, and then eventually just stop completely. And so this is almost identical to Cadillac's implementation with the Super Cruise technology, and the thing with Super Cruise, though, is it only does all that stuff if you're using Super Cruise. And if you want to have your hands off the wheel, then that's when it's like, all right, well, you have to pay attention. And if you don't, then we're just going to pull over and stop the car. So that makes sense. But to be in a Volvo with your hands on the wheel, trying to drive, and if it's like, wow, this person's horrible at driving, let's just stop them and call emergency services. I could see hopefully they get this right. I could see it not being great in the beginning and maybe getting better eventually. But, you know, the other thing is Volvo, with all these cameras constantly recording you, Volvo promises to keep the footage anonymous and private. But we hear that a lot from tech companies, and often that's not the case. So there's that type of thing as well. Will this be used with insurance companies and their data? Can, you know, it's all that kind of stuff. I hope that this doesn't get abused. It has promise, but it seems a little overreaching as well. So we'll have to wait and see. But anyway, interesting to see that. To go along with that, though, shortly after that news, a few days later, the European Union Commission officially passed legislation to make 9 driver safety systems required on all new cars starting in 2022 for new cars that are launched at that point. So any car that's being developed with a launch date of 2022 will have to have these 9 safety features. Existing cars that have been developed before 2022 won't have to comply until 2024 with these 9 required things. And so the agreement currently is provisional, which means apparently it's not set in stone and won't be for a few more months, and it could potentially get kicked back or something, but it sounds pretty close to being a done deal. We'll have to see. Anyway, so here's some of the stuff that be required. I'm not going to go through all of it because some of it's basic stuff. Tire pressure monitoring systems, reverse cameras. I thought they already had that stuff is required anyway. But it also, lane keeping assist is going to be required. Advanced emergency braking, those types of things. Again, not a big deal there. They also want to improve crash protection. So they want to have pole side impact, occupant protection, and also a full width frontal occupant protection for better seat belts, better crash protection in the front. Also, they want to improve the head impact zone and enlarge that area for pedestrians and cyclists, which could limit European car design if they have to make sure that they have like this floating mattress on the hood so that people who get hit by cars don't bash their heads too hard. So that could influence design a little bit, but the main things here is that there's going to be an alcohol interlock installation facilitation, which seems a little murky as far as what that actually means. But it basically, when people get DUIs, even here in the States, sometimes they're ordered to have like a breathalyzer with their steering column, and they can't turn the car on until they blow into the tube. I don't think this is requiring that whole setup. I think it just means every car has to be designed with an easy plug-in to have one of those systems installed, I think. That's what it sounds like, at least with just the facilitation part. And it also means that one of the other requirements is an event accident data recorder. It's like a black box for cars. So it would record all this kind of stuff. And then if you have an accident, it would be like, yep, this is what he was doing. This is what was going on. And, kind of give all the details for helping with accident reconstruction. That as well, I think that could be helpful. But the one that's going to be a sticking point for every enthusiast is intelligent speed assistance will be forced and required, again, if this passes. And now there are provisions in this. They say it can be overridden temporarily, like to pass someone, and they say that it can still be turned off. But that kind of stuff, again, leads to abuse. How long can you turn it off before, eventually they just don't make it an option to turn it off, and you are forced to always do the speed limit? That actually sounds like the end of the enthusiast world as we know it, if we all have to go around doing the speed limit. So we'll have to wait and see. Again, it's all up in the air. I'm not going to talk too much about this because it does kind of wade into political and personal and moral views and stuff, so don't want to really harp on this too long. But I think most enthusiasts would be upset by being forced to do the speed limit. So we'll have to see how that pans out here, but we'll be watching that closely. Lastly, to end on a high note here, we have another vehicle that was spied this week that's kind of cool, and this is the new Honda Fit, which was actually spied in Europe. And this is going to be coming in either 2020 or 2021 model years at least, so probably here either end of this year or early next, I'm hoping, because it seems like it's almost production ready with production headlights, taillights. On the outside though, back to that exterior stuff, it looks a little less boxy here, more streamlined. It looks pretty good though. It looks to have little fender flares there as well if you look closely through the camo. meaning this might kind of have a little bit of a crossover vibe to it, just to try and appease those who, you know, want that type of thing. And so hopefully that means we'll get it in the States here too. If they're making a version with fender flares, that gets Americans extra excited when it comes to you know, vehicle purchases with the mass market. So hopefully that will be something that gets brought here, and would be a great solution for those who are Fiesta or Focus hatchback owners that, you know, want a new vehicle that's still small and affordable, and Ford doesn't offer it anymore. So you can maybe go to Honda, hopefully, if they bring this over here. So anyway, interesting to see that. But yeah, so that's it for all the news this week, guys. Let me know your thoughts and everything in the comments below. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.